Today I'm sharing my famous chocolate cream pie. I say famous within my family. We've done our own little cooking throwdowns, and it is award-winning as judged by my niece and nephew and parents against my sisters, which there's a little bit of controversy because I use a store-bought crust, which I'll show you guys. I'm going to throw that crust in the oven to bake while I mix up the pie filling. So easy and delicious. I use this crust, which I buy in the frozen section at Sprouts, and I'm pretty sure they sell it at Whole Foods too. These are dairy-free, and it also comes in a gluten-free version. Sometimes it is a little bit broken, so you can let it defrost until the dough is soft enough to press it back together. This bakes at 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes until it's lightly golden brown. I do usually poke a couple little holes in it so it doesn't puff up, because it tends to puff up when you bake it without the filling in it. For the pie filling, pour 1 cup semi-sweet or dark chocolate chips into a saucepan, half a cup of sugar, 1/3 cup flour, and 2 cups of almond milk, which I forgot to fill myself pouring in there. Meanwhile, keep these nearby. You'll need them later. There's 2 tablespoons butter and 1 teaspoon vanilla in here and 3 egg yolks. And now for the hardest part, which isn't really hard at all. It just involves parking yourself here in front of the saucepan and not leaving. Just stay here and keep whisking the mixture pretty much constantly. You want to get out any clumps of flour. Wait until the chocolate is melted, everything is dissolved, and the mixture starts to thicken and bubble up a bit. So just park yourself here and keep whisking. When it starts to bubble up like this, that's when you want to time yourself for 2 minutes. Keep whisking constantly while it's bubbling for the full 2 minutes to allow the mixture to fully thicken before we temper in the egg yolks. Now you can see how thick it is after just 2 minutes of bubbling up. At this point, you want to briefly take it off the heat to add in the egg yolks. So what I do is take a little bit of this mixture, kind of let it cool off a little, let the steam come off of it before I put it into the eggs, and quickly, really quickly whisk it in so it doesn't have a chance to allow the heat to scramble the eggs. You want to do this to get the eggs adjusted to the temperature of the filling before you add them in. And do this one more time as fast as you possibly can. Take a little bit more of that mixture, let it cool off, and whisk it in as fast as you can. At this point, you'll add the egg yolk mixture back into the chocolate custard in the saucepan and move it back onto the heat. So I put it back on the burner and lowered the heat. You're going to let this start bubbling again and make sure it stays bubbling for at least another 90 seconds before you remove it from the heat. This is going to allow the egg yolks to thicken the custard more and ensure that the eggs are a safe temperature for eating this pie once it's chilled. After 90 seconds, you've got a nice thick custard. You want to take it off the heat for good now and add in your 2 tablespoons of butter and teaspoon of vanilla that we had set aside earlier. At this point, I'll switch to a spatula to keep mixing this. Scrape any filling off the sides of the saucepan and make sure everything gets incorporated with the butter and vanilla for that rich flavor. Now it starts to look beautiful, glistening, shiny, and smooth. While we were mixing the pie filling, that should have been just enough time for the pie crust to get golden brown, about 15-20 minutes. You could, of course, make the pie crust ahead of time if it gives you anxiety of trying to watch the pie crust while you're doing the filling. If we're timing this about right, then the pie crust should be getting just about golden and ready to come out of the oven, and we can pour the filling right into it. So let's take a look. That's looking pretty good. I can see that my patchwork job was not quite successful. It didn't really take, but that's all right. I am not going to worry about that. Then just pour the custard filling straight into your pie crust. And you want to just take your spatula and smooth this out into an even layer. This should be just the right amount to fill up the crust, and it leaves a tiny bit of room for us to add our whipped topping. You could use any simple whipped cream or a Cool Whip for the topping. If you want to make this pie totally dairy-free, you can use a coconut whipped cream and use Earth Balance instead of the butter. I'm going to make a coconut whipped cream today. I think it adds more flavor than regular whipped cream. Meanwhile, the pie filling is going to chill in the fridge for a few hours. This is literally just the cream from a can of coconut milk and about a 1/4 cup powdered sugar. You can adjust the sugar level to how sweet you like the topping. I don't like it super sweet. And to get the coconut cream, basically when you have a can of coconut milk, it separates into the creamy part at the top and the coconut water and kind of settles to the bottom underneath. As long as you don't shake up your can of coconut milk after you buy it from the store, it should separate nicely. And if you refrigerate it, it makes it easier to scoop out just the creamy part from the top only. You want to leave the coconut water behind and just save that to use for something else. Normally it's a little bit thicker than this, but I was a little impatient today, so I didn't refrigerate it as long as I should have, but it will set a little bit more. I'm going to spread this out and then put it back in the fridge to keep chilling for at least another hour or so. Once the pie has set and chilled for about another hour, you can garnish with some grated chocolate shavings or chocolate chips. I lost the footage of pulling out that beautiful first slice, but the custard was nice and perfectly set, and I've already had requests to make it again for Thanksgiving.